And we are live. Hey, it's your Wisconsin Wine Guy. It's been a long time since I've done this. Went live and shared some information or shared some videos or maybe even just do a wine tasting. So for those who are new to me, it's your Wisconsin Wine Guy. I do wine reviews on YouTube. Every Wednesday, there's a new wine. And these are wines you can find in your local stores, local liquor store, grocery store, or wine shop. I review these wines and give you my opinion and what I think about the wines, but hopefully to encourage you to go give those wines a try. Well, today, though, I should say this month, we're in January of 2023. So I haven't started reviews yet for 2023. They'll begin February. All right, that first one's in February. I'm right now doing dry January, you know, and it's not that I drink a lot over the year, but I like to take this time just to relax my body, reset my goals, you know, uh, that set out my plan of what I'm going to do for wine reviews, and so dry January for me is a moment to relax. So if you're doing dry January, congratulations. Take that time to yourself. Now, even though tonight we're going to be doing something I did a while back ago, and I want to bring those back. These are like virtual wine and winery tours. In which it'll be a video, whether it be my own video or video from a different source, in which we'll visit some wineries or wine region and learn more about the wine. I think this is a great way to tour. This is something I started doing during the pandemic, 2020. I say, well, let's take a wine trip. So I started doing these, and these were great. I enjoyed them. I hope you enjoyed them as well. So I'm going to bring those back, and do some of those for you again. So today is going to be very interesting. It's a story that's as old as California. We're talking Korbel champagne. What? You can't call a wine that's not out of Champagne, France, champagne? Well, you know what? When I said this is a story as old as California, we're going back to the 1800s, when there was no rules in Champagne, France for this. And in fact, uh, Korbel and a couple of others from back in the day, we're going back into the 60s, for some of us, back in the day when they had won the right to still call their sparkling wines champagne, even though it's not a Champagne, France. But so Korbel is one of those champagne houses, and most people look at Korbel and say, "Hey, you know what? It's Korbel. It's that bottom shelf champagne." I would say give another visit. What you don't know, and what you can learn about Korbel is that not only do they do those champagnes, the sparkling wines you can find in every store, they also do a Blanc de Blanc. They also do a Pinot Noir. They also do a Chardonnay only. They also do vintages, vintage champagne. So there's a lot to their portfolio, and I recommend you give it a try. Every now and then I can find some of those I just mentioned. The website link is down in the description. Go check it out. You may be surprised at what Korbel has to offer. So, without further ado, let's start this virtual tour. If you have any comments, put your comments down below, and I will try to respond as we go along. But I have a treat for you. And this treat is going to be for some of those who are from back in the day, such as myself. We're going to do a commercial. All right, we're going to start this off with a commercial. A commercial from the 70s, right? It's going to be a commercial from the 70s for Korbel Champagne. Then we'll roll into our Korbel Champagne House tour. So, Wisconsin Wine Guys, if you have something to drink, go ahead and have a sip. Go ahead and have a drink. I mean, watch this. I have nothing to drink but water, keeping it clean. So, without further ado, let's get this show started. Well, let's move it up. All right, look at that. Check that out. I mean, look at that commercial. We're gonna go old school. So get ready for it. Old school. And let the show begin.
Korbel. Made the same way great champagnes have been made since the 1600s. Their method gives you very tiny bubbles. And tiny bubbles mean a classic taste. You can tell. A good champagne does not have a loud pop when it opens. Ah, see? Korbel Champagne.
In from the jagged coast of the Pacific, set along the serpentine route of the Russian River, and deep within the towering redwoods, the Korbel family came here in the 1850s to build a life, earn a living, and shape their own American dream. Today, their story is largely the story of Korbel, California champagne, a story of American celebrations. But it didn't start that way. It started like a revolution. In 1848, young Francis Korbel joined a group of students in Prague to protest the monarchy's repressive policies. There was gunfire. The police arrested Francis, saying he had pulled the trigger. He was sentenced to 17 years in Dalaborka prison. This formidable penitentiary had a distinctive stone tower that Francis would never forget. After 2 years of confinement, Francis was able to escape with the help of his mother.
He spent 2 years in that prison. And finally, I guess, mother came up with the idea that I'm going to get my son out of prison. And as I said, she came in with civilian clothes hidden underneath her clothes. And he put them on and walked out the prison very casually.
Francis fled Prague and eventually arrived in Holland, where he learned cigar making. In a short period, Francis was able to save enough money to purchase a transatlantic ticket. His destination? New York City. New York was a thriving metropolis, swelling with immigrants. Francis moved into a neighborhood with other Czech immigrants and returned to making cigar boxes for an income. Anton and Joseph Korbel, his two brothers, joined him. The California gold rush was on, with the discovery of gold at Sutter's Mill in 1849. The Korbel brothers made their way to San Francisco, seeking their fortune. Because the Panama Canal had yet to be built, the Korbels crossed to the Pacific via the Isthmus of Panama. The journey lasted 3 years. When Francis and his brothers arrived in San Francisco, the gold rush was over. Francis took a job grading and packing cigars and saw an opportunity to manufacture cigar boxes. With the help of his brothers, he founded the Korbel Cigar Box Company and purchased land in Sonoma and Humboldt counties for its timber.
Oh, it had to be very difficult because there was nothing out here, basically. There was just trees, redwoods, and if you've ever been to a redwood forest, you might know it's very thick and very dense, and they had to clear the land. Naturally, they used the wood, but they had to clear the land, which no chainsaws, no electricity, muscle and grit. Had to be tough.
When I was young, I went and saw some of the huge trees they cut, and it totally amazed me what they could do with a tree that was hundreds of feet tall, and you watch them cut it and see it fall. And it was unbelievable. That's all I can say. It was really unbelievable.
As their business grew, Francis and his brothers realized they needed reliable year-round transportation for their timber.
The Korbels would not have been able to ship any major heavy product like wood to San Francisco and points around the world without confining that transportation to the summertime. And also it would have been very, very expensive to be hauled by wagon and ox cart or whatever else they had available. After the railroad arrived here in 1876, they basically had direct line access to San Francisco by railroad and ferry boat, and then to any point in the world by shipping.
The Korbels financed and built their first railway to connect the mill with the world beyond. Their second railroad, the Arcata and Mad River Railway, was completed in 1884. Today, the most visible remnant of the Korbel transportation network is the Korbel Railway Station. Like true entrepreneurs, the Korbel brothers sought out new opportunities. They bought a schooner, the Bohemia, and a steam-powered vessel, the North Fork. They also owned and operated a ferry in the San Francisco Bay Area. When they needed a supply of labels for their cigar boxes, the Korbel brothers purchased a printing press, which they also used to publish their political opinions in The Wasp, a magazine named for its editorial sting. In 1876, fire destroyed the Korbel cigar box factory in San Francisco. The loss prompted the Korbel brothers to refocus their attention on operations in Sonoma County. When the Russian River property was cleared of trees, the Korbel brothers looked for new ways to make the land productive. They tried a dairy and a variety of crops, including plums, alfalfa, tobacco, olives, and grapes. Looking for the best fit for the area, the family sent soil samples to the University of California, Davis. The results were revealing.
It's beautiful soil here. We're right on the Russian River. Thousands of years of flooding have created just the most perfect balance to grow wine grapes and champagne grapes here in the lower Russian River Valley.
The Korbels released a variety of wines. Within a few years, demand outpaced production, and a larger facility was required. The Korbel brothers designed the new winery. Never willing to take shortcuts, they constructed it with bricks from their kiln and wood from their mills. The new winery included a distinct architectural feature, a replica of the tower at the Dallaborca prison where Francis was incarcerated. Now called the Brandy Tower, this turret-like structure is the lasting reminder of the hardships Francis overcame. Francis wanted to produce fine European-style wines, so in 1890 he recruited a university-trained winemaker.
The very first winemaker, Frank Joseph Hasek, is kind of an interesting story. He was born in Melnik, Bohemia, and actually went to the University of Melnik in their viticultural department. And he was also the only one willing to move from Bohemia to California. So because of Frank's adventurous spirit, he wound up being the first winemaker of Korbel.
Hasek was knowledgeable in the method champenois tradition, where secondary fermentation occurs inside the bottle. His arrival set the stage for the production of Korbel, California champagne. But there were still challenges ahead. In 1896, the new winery caught fire. The building and its enormous rafters survived, thanks to quick-thinking winemakers who doused the flames with freshly crushed grape juice. A reaction that saved the winery at the cost of a year's worth of wine. As the 19th century came to a close, Korbel became one of the most popular California champagnes in the land, and the brothers expanded the House of Korbel with an office in Chicago. In 1906, a powerful earthquake hit San Francisco. The shockwaves leveled buildings in Santa Rosa and reached all the way to the winery. But the winery's sturdy design and construction absorbed the impact of the earthquake without sustaining even a cracked window pane. The Brandy Tower was not as fortunate. It was severely damaged, and iron bands still present today were installed for support. When Prohibition began in 1919 and alcoholic beverages were banned, the Korbel brothers reacted by reducing their inventory. During this period, Korbel was permitted to make and sell a limited amount of wine and brandy for altar and medicinal purposes. None of the founding Korbel brothers were to survive the repeal of Prohibition in 1933. But the winery did, and a case of Korbel was delivered to the White House to mark the end of Prohibition. In the early 1950s, the remaining members of the Korbel family sold the winery to Adolf Heck, a third-generation winemaker. Adolf possessed a profound respect for the history of the winery and the method champenois tradition. Adolf brought a new vision to the winery. He introduced a unique yeast culture into the secondary fermentation process. Today, Korbel uses descendants of this same culture to make its California champagne. In 1956, Adolf revolutionized champagne by redefining Korbel Brut as a lighter and drier style, introducing a new generation to champagne. He added other innovations as well.
Adolf invented the automatic riddling machine. It vibrates the bottles upside down, forcing that yeast into the neck of the bottle. And then as it's vibrating, it goes left, right, working it into the neck.
Hand riddling was an extraordinarily intensive task that required each bottle be turned precisely by hand. Adolf's riddling rack automated the process and eliminated error, ultimately improving the quality of Korbel California champagnes. Adolf Heck's reputation grew, and demand for Korbel California champagne grew with it.
When Dad bought the company in 1954, it was a small, little, tiny company. It was only like 3,000 cases. He was the production guy. He was the lab guy. He was the winemaker, the champagne master. He did the tough part of Korbel. He took it from 3,000 cases to up to 150,000 cases.
Since taking the reins from his father in 1982, Gary Heck has led Korbel through its most accelerated growth and expansion, extending the product lineup with many styles of California champagne. Korbel maintains its distinction as America's top-selling champagne. Korbel has been a symbol of American celebration since 1882. From premier sporting events to historic occasions, Korbel has been there for life's toasts. What began as an American dream has, over time, become an American icon. Korbel, California champagne.
Wow, wasn't that cool? That was definitely worth a watch. We're talking Sonoma. I mean, we're familiar with some of the more well-known or more popular wineries throughout Sonoma, especially along the Russian River Valley. But oftentimes we forget about some of those pioneers of the time. And Korbel was one of those pioneers of the time. And I'm going to say, go out and give some Korbel a try again if you haven't tried Korbel in a while. If you decided to, like, I'm a Dom drinker, or I'm only going to drink French champagne, or I'm going to drink Spanish. I mean, you know what? There's a lot happening at Korbel. Again, the website is down below. I hope you enjoyed this feature, because I enjoyed presenting this to you and giving you a little bit of story about California, a champagne that's as old as California itself. So there you have it. Your Wisconsin wine guy is saying to you, as always, let your palate be the guide in selecting your next wine. And I'm going to see you on the next live winery tour. Where's my water? Ciao. Thanks for watching.